pushed a bunch of buttons and did some debug, and was able to get the cosmetic thread to work, but I don't know that I got it back to its original state. So we're just going to run through. For whatever reason, it would not recognize the cosmetic threads. So worst case is delete on the keyboard or right button and right mouse button and delete. We'll go back into the insert annotations, cosmetic thread, and pick the machine threads 20 up to next. If we show the type and unshow the type, it was still there. So even though that was unchecked, so when the show type's checked, the machine threads annotation gets added. When it's not, it goes away. Also had a SolidWorks crash in the middle of all of that, so that hasn't happened very often, but may have been part of the problem with the geometry. So go back into the Smart, pick our cosmetic thread, and now I'm getting the geometry call out for the M20 by 0.25. So pretty much the simplified thread forms, the 20 millimeter diameters. Probably need to maybe put the note, and if we can call it a third pass. I'm not real worried about tolerances on this. If we call it a third pass, maybe we would go in and pick these and make them a 3 decimal place call out. And the overall, not so much. The widths of the slots in the what did I make it, plus or minus 10 thousandths. Considering that the screws are going to go in there, don't go in there anyway. So if it was a 6 millimeter wide slot and we were expecting to go in and actually locate, or we picked a screw that had a tab on the end or was modified to have a tab to fit in the slot so that it could lock in place, maybe act as an anti-rotation, something along those lines. So the other item of interest was if you do not have the office or professional level, where do we find an M6 by 1 model? So if we go to a site like McMaster, there are others of course, but we can filter for metric, and I just went to the front. If I typed in machine screws or bolts or something like that, we would get pretty close. And so I'm going to pick an M6 by 1 and believe it was a length of 10 millimeter. And I want a hex head. And then we have to decide, do we need high strength 10.9, 8.8, pretty much standard. These are standard regular steel. 18.8 are going to be a little bit softer but more corrosion resistant. So really 316, you can go down through, probably not plastic, maybe not brass, with titanium available. Okay, so you got a lot of choices there. And if I go to the product and the product detail, now it showed up there as well, but you can see it a little better. See the drawing, and if we go to download, it's going to put that in my downloads folder, and I'm going to be able to navigate up to the downloads, and let's see, we need to cut that and then paste it into our folder so that we have access to it. And going back to the assembly, it's not open, so probably the quickest, go back to the front first sheet, tell it to open the document. Going to hide the toolbox items. And now that I'm at this point, I can insert a component, existing part or assembly. We're going to browse to the part number and description, and bring it in. It doesn't have any mate references, so we're going to have to kind of figure that out as we go. So in this case, an edge, and probably go to the cylinder. So if I make that concentric, again, if I wanted to rotate it or flip it around, could do that on the pop-up. And then pretty much the same thing we did before, to the right plane, and a distance of 20 millimeters. And I can place it with their component. So if you have a preferred vendor and are able to download their models and descriptions, then when we generate the bill of materials, let's go back to the drawing. Well, let's make sure this is saved first. And the name's going to be a little bit long, so expect the bill of materials is going to wrap. All right, so the part name, that came out all right. And our part number was in 18.8 steel. All right, so most of the information came in pretty well. And we can now use it. Notice that the two hidden items are still in play. So if we needed to, and it's not participating in the, going to participate in the exploded view. So if I were to suppress those, save it, and come back to the sheet, now they should be gone altogether. Didn't get rid of my jog lines, my exploded sketch lines, but for the most part, looks pretty good. And so you can manipulate those as needed to get your hardware into a hardware library started.